proportions. Proportions. Ever heard of the word proportion? Anyone know what a proportion is? No. Nah. A proportion is two equivalent ratios. So let's say you had the ratio of 3 to 5. That's a ratio. Remember, it is said 3 to 5. That is my ratio. Well, a proportion would be this. Give me an equivalent ratio. What's that? 6/10. Right there. This whole thing. Equal sign and all. There's a proportion. Okay? Simple enough. Everyone understand that. A proportion is an equivalent ratio. Two ratios that are equivalent with the equal sign in between. Simple. Yeah, we already talked about that. Many of you are going to get this wrong on the quiz when you take this quiz. I don't know why. It just seems to trip people up. Write a proportion for the model. Okay. Well, what is a proportion? Oh, come on. Seriously. What is a proportion? Equivalent ratio. So give me one ratio that represents hearts to stars. 4 to 8. Right? We got 4 of those. We got 8 of these, right? So I need to write I have to have an equal sign to get my proportion. How about I just cut this in half and cut this in half? I mean, technically you're right. 40 to 80 would work. That would be a equivalent ratio. 2 to 4. Now, if I said draw it out, if I had you draw it out, you would draw 4 stars or 4 hearts. So you would make your little hearts. That's sweet. 2 hearts equals, oh no, 2 hearts. And then you would draw 4 stars. I'm not very good at drawing stars, but that's okay. Equals, then you would do 4 hearts. Whatever. Okay. And then you would draw 8 stars. That's what you would do. If you drew it out, that's what it would look like. Okay? Whiteboards. Do it. So you get 2 to 6 equals 1 to 3. That's a proportion. You need to have 2 ratios with an equal sign in between. Now, can we all agree, this is going to get to the more complicated part of this lesson. Can we all agree that every one of those is a proportion? They all are proportions because these are equivalent. 4 to 8 is equivalent to 2 to 4. 3 to 5 is equivalent to 9 to 15. 9 to 6 is equivalent to 3 to 2. 14 to 7 is equivalent to 2 to 1. They are all equivalent. Those are all proportions, right? We all agree with that? Yes? Raise your hand if you agree. Okay, good. My next question for you, what is 4 times 4? Jonathan? 16. What's 8 times 2? 16. 3 times 15? 45. 5 times 9? 45. 6 times 3? 9 times 2? You see that? In a proportion, your diagonals are equivalent, or that this times this equals this times this. This times this equals this times this. This times this equals that times that. It will always work out that way. That is the definition. It has to work that way. Now you see why I had you write them as fractions? Okay. Understand that cross products are equal. So that way, if one of them is missing, we can always find it. I will show you. Now we have one that's missing. Now, every one of you in this room, every single one of you in this room can do this. I'm going to tell you don't do this. So first of all, kind of ignore what I'm telling you, but you can use it as a check too. But I want you to understand this. Most of you can look at this and go, well, this is just times 3. And you know that n is going to equal 15, right? All of you can do that. But let me tell you this. There's going to be times when you don't recognize it, and it's not going to work quite as simply. Okay? You are in 6th grade, so we're using nice, easy whole numbers right now. You need to understand the other process and the other way to do this. So I'm not going to allow you to do it that way right now. Okay? What I'm going to make you do, what you have to do on your homework, you need to do this. Understand that cross products are equal. This times this equals this times this. That means 6n, 6 times n, equals 90. 5 times 18 is 90. This times this equals that times that. Now, we have an algebra problem. Do you remember my 2 rules of algebra? What's rule number 1 of algebra? Okay. No, that's the first one. But there's a little more to it. Of what's happening. Very good. Find out what's happening to the variable and do the exact opposite. That's rule number 1. What was rule number 2? Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So what is the exact opposite of what's happening? Well, first of all, what is happening to n? It's being multiplied by 6. So what's the exact opposite of multiplying by 6? So we divide this side by 6, and rule number 2 of algebra is what? Do it to both sides. So we divide this side by 6. So now I have this problem. That goes away. We're left with n equals 90 divided by 6, which is 15. Okay? What you see here needs to be on your homework. All of it. Okay? All of it. Raise your hand if you understand what I just said. Okay, good. If you do not have all of that, I will not accept it as completed, and you're going to have to redo it. Okay? You need to show this. Show me that you understand that cross products are equal and that you know how to solve the algebraic expression. Okay? So on your whiteboards, I would like you guys to try this one. Those of you struggling, please understand. Put this in your head. This will always help you write the algebraic expression. Think this times this equals this times this, and you know it's cross products. So this times this equals this times this. So it's 5 times n, this times this, equals this times this. 3 times 15, which is 45. Now we have an algebraic expression. What's happening to the variable is it's being multiplied by 5, so the exact opposite is divide by 5, and we do it to both sides, divided by 5. We're left with n equals 45 divided by 5, which is 9. Okay. Now the next one is a word problem. According to the label, 1 tablespoon of plant fertilizer should be used for 6 gallons of water. That sounds like a ratio to me, doesn't it? 1 tablespoon of plant fertilizer to 6 gallons of water. So that's 1 to 6. Now here's what I'm going to ask that you guys do. Always. It's going to help you. When you write a word problem, when you have a word problem and it gives you this, help yourself out by remembering what's on top and what's on bottom. Right now, what's on top is, this one is the fertilizer, and the thing that's on the bottom is the water. Just make a little note of it. It will help you solve these problems. Okay? So my ratio is 1 tablespoon of fertilizer to 6 gallons of water. And then it says how many tablespoons would you use for 4 gallons of water? Equals, I'm going to have another ratio. Somebody tell me, 4 gallons of water, is that going to go on the top or on the bottom? Because it makes a difference. It's going to make a difference in how we solve it. What do you think? And why would you say it goes on the bottom? Because it's water, and I got to keep water on the bottom or fertilizer on the top. Now, would it have mattered if I would have done it like this? Does that make a difference? No, actually it doesn't. Because here I've got water on top and fertilizer on the bottom. It doesn't really matter as long as I keep the water in the same row and the fertilizer in the same row. Because when I solve this problem, it's still going to end up 6x equals 4, just like here. This is going to be 6x equals 4. It's the same. It is the same, but I got to keep this stuff straight though, okay? As long as I keep my water in one row and my fertilizer in the other row. That makes no difference. What makes a difference though is not switching those around. Now, here's a problem. What do I do? What do I do? I have an algebraic expression, that's right. What do I have to do? Figure it out. So what's happening to the variable? I got to do the opposite. What is it? So what's the opposite? So I got to divide by 6. And I got to do it to both sides. Divide by 6. I'm left with x equals 4 divided by 6. Ugh. What's that look like? What is every fraction you've ever seen? It's a division problem. So can't I just do this instead? Can't I just make this 2/3? Because it's still a division problem. It still solves the problem. All I did is just reduce this. 2/3 of a tablespoon. That's it. What? Well, you could solve it if you wanted to. You could do 4 divided by 6 if you wanted to. You could do this. 4 divided by 6, and you could try and solve this problem, and you would end up like this. You'd have this, and that would go in there, what, 6 times? Divide minus 36? 4. Bring down, oh my gosh. It'd be 6 again. And we keep going, and you could do this. You could do it 0.6 repeating if you wanted to. Take a calculator. Take 2 divided by 3. Or it is 2 divided by 3. How many times does 3 go into 2? Or 3 go into 20? Yeah, it's still 6. That's what it's an equivalent fraction. 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. It still solves the problem. No, I just reduced it. That's all I did. All I did was take 4/6 and reduce it. Well, yeah, because that's the greatest common factor. No, you could do any number to reduce it, to make it the simplest form.
So you would take x equals 0.66?
I would take that, but I would also, why would you do the division when you don't have to? You know what I mean? I would just reduce it so you don't have to do the division. You guys do this one. Not that one. Do. What's going on? That one. You have 3 to 9. So I decided to have fertilizer on top and water on the bottom. And then it says how many for 2 gallons of water. So we put a 2 on the bottom because we're talking about the water on the bottom. And then whatever variable I want to choose, I'll choose x. Then I got to multiply. This times this equals, it's 9x, equals this times this, which is 6. Divide by 9, x equals 2/3. Tablespoons, capital T. I would like you to do this one right here, number 2. Come on, let's go. We're running out of time. Homework. Page 364. 8 to 36 even.